May as Historic Preservation Month in 1973 as a way to promote historic places for the purpose of instilling nation and community pride, promoting heritage and tourism, showing the social and economic benefits of historic preservation. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas Historic Preservation Month can instill awareness of the local historically significant buildings and landmarks to the residents of the city of Petersburg. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by the City of Petersburg Architectural Review Board, the city's preservation planner, Department of Planning and Community Development, and our citizens who invest time, energy, and resources to restore and preserve historic properties in the city. And whereas we extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professional and volunteers. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Samuel Parham, by virtue of the authority vested in me in the city of Petersburg, to do by proclaim the month of May 2021 as Historic Preservation Month in the city of Petersburg and urge all citizens to join me in the special observance dated May 18th, 2021. Next, we have item 5B, a proclamation designating June 15th, 2021 as Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Whereas the city of Petersburg recognizes that in 2006, the International Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse proclaimed June 15th of each year as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And whereas, according to the Department of Justice Elder Abuse Initiative, elder abuse is an international or negligent act by any person that causes harm or serious risk of harm to an older adult. Subtypes of elder abuse include physical abuse, financial fraud, scams, exploitation, caregiver, neglect and abandonment, psychological abuse, and sexual abuse. And whereas DOJ also reports that elder abuse is a serious crime against some of our nation's most vulnerable citizens, affecting at least 10% of older Americans every year. And whereas some risk factors for elder abuse can include low social supports, poor physical health, and experience of previous traumatic events, according to the National Center on Elder Abuse. And whereas close to half of elderly individuals who suffer from dementia will experience abuse during their lifetime. According to the Department of Justice, research suggested that elderly individuals who experience cognitive impairment, physical disabilities, and isolation are more likely to become the victims of abuse than those without disabilities. And whereas the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services also reports that the majority of incidents of adult abuse, negligent or exploitation occurs in the adult's own house or apartment, and National Adult Protective Service Association reports that approximately 90% of the perpetrators in elder financial exploitation cases are family members or other trusted individuals. And whereas elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation have no boundaries and cross all racial, social, class, gender, and geographic lines, according to the Elder Justice Coalition. And whereas only a small fraction of elder abuse cases is reported to the authorities, public awareness of elder abuse has the potential to increase identification and reporting of this crime by the public, professionals, and victims. And whereas the population projection by age and sex for Virginia and its localities 2020 to 2040 produced by demographic research group of the Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service reports that the number of Virginians over the age of 60 numbers 1,889,268 seniors. And whereas the Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services reported data for state fiscal year 2020 of the 37,398 reports of adult abuse, neglect, or exploitation received through the Adult Protective Services Program, 73% were persons aged 60 years and older. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Sam Pam, by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the city of Petersburg, do hereby proclaim June 15th, 2021 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the city of Petersburg and urge all citizens in our community to take time during this important day to support adults and the people who serve them as essential and valuable members of our community and to identify and report suspected elder abuse within our community. Dated May 18th, 2021. Next, we move on to item 5C. Proclamation designating May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week in the city of Petersburg. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the Petersburg Bureau of Police play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the city of Petersburg. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understands the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Petersburg Bureau of Police unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, I, Samuel Pram, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor in the city of Petersburg, do hereby proclaim May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week and May 15th, 2021 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in the city of Petersburg and urge all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe this occasion with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of the citizens may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities and in so doing have established for themselves an inviolable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens, dated May 18th, 2021. A round of applause, please, for our police officers, men and women, for National Police Week. Thank you for all your service. Next, we move on to item 5D, proclamation designating May 16th through 22nd, 2021 is National EMS Week in the city of Petersburg. Whereas Virginia Medical Services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of the Petersburg Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services and Southside Virginia Emergency Crew are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out of hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas our citizens benefit daily from the dedicated efforts, knowledge, and skills of the emergency medical services team, consisting of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrator, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of the Petersburg Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services and Southside Virginia Emergency Crew, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas the hard work and dedication of these career and volunteer first responders, our citizens receive the finest emergency medical treatment in their most vulnerable moments. We would like to also honor and remember those EMS providers who have made the ultimate sacrifice and given their lives in the line of duty. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. And therefore, I, Samuel Parham, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Petersburg, do hereby proclaim May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week in the city of Petersburg with the theme Caring for Our Communities. I encourage the community to observe this week with the appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities dated May 18th, 2021. Thank you to Southside Virginia Emergency Crew and our Petersburg Fire Department. We appreciate all that you do. Next, we move on to item 5E, which is a proclamation designation May 2021 as Business Appreciation Month in the city of Petersburg, Virginia. Whereas Governor Ralph S. Northam has proclaimed May 2021 as Business Appreciation Month in our Commonwealth of Virginia and called this observance to the attention of all citizens. And whereas the proclamation is an effort to highlight Virginia's business community, the foundation of our state's economy, and whereas the proclamation is made to recognize and celebrate those companies that anchor communities through Virginia. And whereas Virginia is consistently chosen by businesses for its talented workforce, educational system, central East Coast location, and advanced infrastructure. And whereas Virginia is ranked as America's top state for business by CNBC. And whereas the Commonwealth recognizes the accomplishments of its small businesses, major employers, and entrepreneurs, all of whom contribute greatly to building and sustaining Virginia's economy. And whereas the city of Petersburg recognizes and expresses appreciation for the business in Petersburg who make up the local economy and provide employment opportunities to the city's residents. And whereas the diverse array of industries Petersburg business provide goods, services locally throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia and worldwide. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Samuel Perriman, the virtue of the authority vested in me by the city of Petersburg, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Business Appreciation Month in the city of Petersburg and urge all citizens to support local business throughout the month and into the future. Dated May 18, 2021. Signed by myself and the Clerk of Council, Ms. Nikesha Jackson. Thank you for all of our businesses. Next, we move on to item 6, responses to previous public information period. And Ms. Kimmy.
Good afternoon. I have a couple of questions from the last couple of meetings. So I was realizing that now with our new structure, the answers to public information period are only on the second meeting, which is why it's kind of been taking a while to get some answers. So first we had a question about the process for boards and commissions. So once an application is submitted if there's a vacancy, then council will consider that application for appointment. If the board is on the agenda for consideration and council chooses not to appoint any of the applicants, then solicitation is sent out for new applications for that board. We also had a question about the library reopening, and at this moment, there is not an official reopening date for the library. We had a question about the city needing an investment grade credit rating to fund capital projects. Now that the city has that rating, will the school board now have a chance to get the 3 new elementary schools, middle school classroom and multi-purpose room, and a high school field house they requested? So the Budget and Procurement Office, they are currently in the process of developing a CIP development and improvement process that will be taken before City Council or brought before City Council in June, so next month. This will lay the foundation for CIP development moving forward. And then once this process is approved by City Council, then the strategic conversations begin as it relates to funding the projects that were mentioned in the questions. Also, during a previous meeting, it was announced that money was moved to another bank that no one was aware of. Will efforts be made to have the treasurer present to City Council about this move? So according to our interim finance director, the funds that were moved by the treasurer are still currently in this bank. I do not know of any plans for the treasurer to present. However, if this is to take place, it will be announced via the meeting agenda. And then we have one last question about the Petersburg Library Foundation being mentioned during a city council meeting, that no tax dollars were to go towards the new conference and event center. So the agreement was that the city of Petersburg would provide $250,000 for the new library expansion once the audit for FY 2019-20 was completed. So the stipulation was if there was a surplus for FY 2019-20, above the $1 million that was budgeted, then the city will provide up to $250,000. So this commitment has been fulfilled as the payments have been made to the Library Foundation, and the City Council approves an additional $50,000 to be paid to the Library Foundation from CDBG funding for FY 2020-2021. And the answers to these questions can also be found online at petersburgva.gov. Under the Government tab, there is a specific link that is labeled City Council Meeting Presentations. Any items that are not included in the agenda when it's posted to the website are included on this page. And that's not just for today, that's for any meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Kimmy. Next, we'll move on to item 7, approval of consent agenda to include minutes of previous meetings. Item 7A, application, ABC application for Old Towns Alibi. Item B, minutes of May 3rd, 2021 City Council work session, and May 6th, 2021 closed session City Council meeting, and May 12th, 2021 closed session City Council meeting. Those are items for the consent agenda. I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
So move.
All right.
Second.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee,
Aye.
Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 8A, public hearing and consideration for Petersburg City Public Schools, FY 2021 through 22. Budget, second reading of ordinance.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of
Afternoon.
council. This is the scheduled public hearing for the Petersburg City Public Schools operating budget for fiscal year 21-22. I have a short presentation that Dr. Petrie Martin and their schools division provided to us if you'd like me to go through it. But just to recap, there was this was adopted by the school board at the joint meeting with the city council as I believe in April, if not March. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I believe it was in April. But they did provide a few slides for us to go through if we would like to do that prior to the public hearing, sir.
That's fine. Please proceed with the slides.
Okay. There we go. Thank you, Garrett. So go to the next one. So their total operating proposed budget for the schools is $57.8 million. It was about a $1 million increase from the current fiscal year that they're in now. Or the one that I stand corrected. That's about $1 million more than what they had originally proposed, because when they originally proposed their budget, as with the city of Petersburg, it's based on some assumptions from outside funding sources, and they received the new amount from the General Assembly around beginning of March, and that provided their new numbers at the $57.8 million. And you can see the breakdown of their local fees, their E-rate, their sales tax, the state, federal funding. So this is a breakdown that they had provided at the joint meeting. It kind of breaks down the salaries, benefits for the operating food service and grants fund. And it looks like 63% of their operating fund is salaries and benefits. And actually it's closer to 90% if you add those two together with salaries and benefits. So move to the next one, Gary. So this shows the comparison between fiscal year 21, which we're currently in, to the fiscal year 22 that's being proposed and the public hearing is in reference to. So their budget for this current fiscal year was 56.8 million, and then with the 22 budget, it's $57.8 million. So it's about a $1.02 million increase from the current fiscal year. And this breaks down, it's very small, but it breaks down, the first slide was their revenues, the second slide is their expenditures. The numbers will match, but it breaks down their what programmatically they're doing on the expenditure side. So slide over to the 2022 side. It looks like from an administration standpoint, it's $2.6 million. Attendance and health is about $1.1 million. Transportation is $2 million. Operation and maintenance is approximately $4.9 million. And technology-wise, it's $1.8 million, and the vast majority of their expenditures is $34.79 million. About approximately 73% of their proposed budget is for instruction. And this was the slide that they talked about previously at the joint meeting. But this proposed budget builds in a 5% with a 1.5% step increase for all of their employees. So they're incorporating about a 6.5% pay increase for the employees. Something that they were able to do with their grant funding and things like that. So next slide, please, Garrett. So that was the quick slides that were provided to us by the school division, sir.
Okay,
For this.
thank you. Thank
Yes,
you. And this is a public hearing, so I will open up the floor for any public comment on the Petersburg City Public Schools 21-22 operating budget. You can raise your hand in the Zoom if you want to chime in on the budget. All right, Garrett. See anybody out there? All right, I don't see any hands.
That is correct.
All right, so this public hearing is now closed. Next, any discussion from members of council? Councilman Cuthbert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. One, I very much appreciate an email I received, I think all of council received from Dr. Petrie Martin, giving us additional information about agenda item 8C, which we'll get to soon enough. But rather than comment twice, I wanted to comment just once, if I may. I very much appreciate that. We're all on the same wavelength. We're all on the same team. We're all working for the same goal, and that is to maximize the potential of our student population through education. I am encouraged by the large percentage of the total expenditures to be spent on instructional expenditures. And I think we all encourage the school board to continue down in that direction. I was a little puzzled by the comment that Mr. Floyd made a moment ago, that the 6.5% raise across the board was made possible by grants. Grants are pretty much typically a one-time source of funds. On the other hand, salaries are an ongoing expense. And I hope that that information that Mr. Floyd gave us was not accurate, because if it was accurate, there's going to be a problem when the grants end and the salary expectations have been established
Okay,
Yeah,
Councilman
earlier
Cutler,
years.
I see, Dr. Petrie Martin is in and would like to speak to clarify that for you.
Great, thank you.
All right, Gary, this time, could you let Dr. Petrie Martin into the meeting?
She's a co-host. She should be able to unmute.
So, good afternoon to
Good
everyone.
afternoon.
And
Good
thank
afternoon.
you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. And I just wanted to clarify, this is not being made possible through grants. I want to make sure that is very, very clear. As you all know, the governor did sign what the General Assembly had passed to give all state employees a 5% increase. So actually, we are getting state funds to make this happen. This is not a grant. So I just wanted to clarify that for folks as we move forward. It's not a grant.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Petrie Martin, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Martin, as always. Mr. Floyd, you need to chime in on anything? Your hand is up.
I was just going to say the same thing that Dr. Petrie Martin said. My statement was that it came from state and or federal funding, not necessarily grants. And as you know, as we did the breakdown, the school's funding is not just a local funding, it comes from state and federal sources. So that is where the money was coming from. So I just wanted to co-sign what she was saying and further explain what my comment was. Though I did say it was state funds, not necessarily grant funding. It was just funding that the state does provide. So I wanted to provide further clarity to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, this is, Mr. Floyd, this is our second reading, right?
Yes, sir. And this one is scheduled for approval today. Yes, sir.
All righty, well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
So
For
moved.
the-
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, Councilman Hill, second from Vice Mayor Smith Lee. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee. Aye. Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Okay, and next we move on to item 8B, a public hearing for the city of Petersburg's FY 2021 through 22 proposed operating and capital budget, second reading. Mr. Floyd.
Good afternoon again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, residents, City of Petersburg, and Mr. Miller, interim city manager. We have a brief presentation for this one as well, sir, for the proposed operating 21-22 budget. If you would like me to, I can go briefly through it, or we can just go through the public hearing, however you would like me to proceed, sir.
Okay, we have a brief presentation, so let's go ahead on and do the presentation, the 10 slides.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, sir. It's 10 with a starter and ender, so it's about 9 slides. So I'll keep
Okay.
it, sir.
Thank you.
No problem, sir. So go ahead and go to the second slide, Garrett. This is probably the fifth time that we've brought this to either city council and or the community. We've done multiple presentations at the city council. We've done two community budget work sessions, which I would say were very effective for the community. I know it was for staff to receive feedback from the community during those meetings. So I just wanted to go briefly through some of the conversation that we've talked about previously, and I wanted to reiterate this afternoon. This fiscal year 21-22 proposed operating budget is recommending that all seasonal or non-seasonal employees be brought up to $15 an hour by fiscal year 22-23. Mr. Miller put that into our priorities early and often during this process. So that was one thing that we started at the very beginning of this, and we're proud to say that we're able to incorporate this. And if the budget moves forward and the plan moves forward accordingly, then 22-23, which is not next fiscal year, but the fiscal year after that, all non-seasonal employees will be making a minimum of $15 an hour. As we've discussed multiple times during this budget process, there's some organizational changes to the city's executive team. And furthermore than that, there's also structural changes to a lot of the departments as well from a department level standpoint. And I'll briefly talk about that in about 3 slides. We budgeted the $750,000 to be transferred to the court's capital fund for the construction of the new court building. That's one thing that we were obligated to do and we were able to do, and it is a part of this budget. We realigned the funding sources for positions to align where they work. What that means is essentially in the past and currently, there's a lot of positions across the city of Petersburg that may report to a certain function in a certain department within the city, but their funding sources could be split and hit elsewhere. So one thing that Mr. Miller tasked our department with doing early in this process was if you're in the budget and procurement office, if you're in finance, if you're in city manager's office, whoever, whatever department you belong in, your funding will be charged there as well from a clear-cut accountability and transparency standpoint. And that's one thing that we're able to do with this budget. So you'll see throughout the document, there's a lot of changes, a lot of positions. Some of the budgets go up, some of the budgets go down accordingly, but that's due to a lot of that realignment that was done this fiscal year. Each department's budget consists of the following: personnel breakdown, not only with positions, but also the salaries. That was one thing that council had asked for multiple times, and we were able to include that in this budget document. We have department goals for the fiscal year 21-22. The department goals were provided by the departments themselves. We asked them early in this process is to create some goals within the department that are aligned either directly or indirectly with the strategic plan, which is essentially the foundation of what we're doing with this budget document, as well as with the operations moving forward. Department performance measures. If departments have goals, they also need to have measures, something that we can show the efficiencies or the lack of efficiencies within departments, something that we can hold ourselves internally accountable for moving forward. We had progressive funding for government operations returning to normalcy. As we know, we're on the tail end, so to speak, of the pandemic, or at least that's the way it appears. So we know that there's been a lot of loosening of a lot of the regulations, both from the Commonwealth as well as the federal government. So we're in this budget, we're addressing the reopening of a lot of things, a lot of the functions that have not necessarily been ongoing during the pandemic. So we didn't do it full bore at the beginning because we know a lot of these programs would have already started by now. So we're essentially just we're budgeting for funds to ensure that these operations can return to normalcy over time, not all at once, because we know that's unrealistic. And then there's a 2% reduction in overall healthcare costs. And I always say this when we mention this piece of the conversation, that our offices and as well as HR is going to be tasked with soliciting these the healthcare services out again this upcoming fiscal year. So hopefully we'll be able to reduce those moving forward. As we just discussed in the schools, we're leveling their funding at the $10 million. And then finally, we adhered to the $500,000 towards fund balance and $500,000 towards capital improvements, which will be more discussed in more detail in June. Go to the next slide, Garrett. So this is what I just talked about. The strategic plan is a foundation for this upcoming proposed budget, as well as all the operations in the city. And I'll briefly touch on the 4 major goals that we have: is our economic development, neighborhood vitality, good governance, and celebrate Petersburg. The reason why that is important is because when we were putting together this budget, we were meeting with all of the departments directly and indirectly, both with the interim city manager and prior to with our department. We ensured that their funding was to be aligned with the strategic plan. So they had to programmatically put together their budgets so that it would align with the strategic plan moving forward. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Garrett. So this slide basically is, in a nutshell, is our all funds summary for the proposed budget. We're proposing $103,613,656 for the fiscal year 21-22 proposed budget, which is approximately about a 9.86% decrease from the current fiscal year amended budget we're in. And the main reason why that is a decrease is because a lot of the funding that we had this current fiscal year is one-time funding that will not be duplicated moving in the next year, like our CARES funding. A lot of our streets money that we had, our set-aside funds that were provided to us from the VDOT, those funds will not be moving forward, or at least not in this proposed budget. When we know what those balances are at the end of the fiscal year, we'll be able to do a supplemental appropriation accordingly if it applies to those funds. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Garrett. And I talked about the executive team as well as the department level structure, that a restructuring that was done. This slide right here is pretty, it's one that I find intriguing because it shows that the current amended budget we're working under houses 624 full-time and 77 part-time employees. And the proposed budget has 645 full-time and 83 part-time positions. And we were able to do that by essentially restructuring the organization as a whole to do away with labor. That. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Garrett. I'll briefly go over these next two slides. They're essentially our general fund summary. And I want to really just focus on the bottom line numbers, which is our $74.724 million proposed general fund budget, both on the revenue and the expenditure side, which is about a 0.19% decrease from the current, or increase rather, I apologize, from the amended budget we're in now. And if you look at the chart at the bottom, there's one thing that I highlighted in community budget work sessions that I think is worthwhile highlighting here as well. The bottom of the next two slides will show a chart that's extremely similar because it shows the same time periods from fiscal year 18 all the way up to the proposed budget of 22. And it shows the trend of our revenue here, which you see it going up and then going down due to the pandemic. And then you see it slowly but surely climbing up moving forward. And that's what we anticipate as the economy continues to improve and the city opens up and then a lot of the operations come back to normalcy, then I believe that revenue stream will increase. But keep in mind the fluctuations of the revenue, and then go to the next slide, Garrett. And then you see the relatively flatness of the expenditure side. So that tells me that our expenditures were relatively flat. And if you look at the numbers on the slides corresponding with each other, the numbers for the expenditures are less than the revenues, which means that we curtailed spending in the times of the pandemic. And even in the history, we've been able to level that expenditure, the expenditures to a point to where our revenues always exceed our expenditures, which is what ideally we would like to do. So I wanted to point that out. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So this slide here explains our fiscal year 21-22 capital budget. It's on pages 191 through 196 of the budget document that everyone has. And if not, it's online on the Budget and Procurement Office's webpage underneath the fiscal year 21-22 budget documents link. This is the first time we were able to incorporate this information in the budget document. We usually come in on the back end throughout the fiscal year and do supplemental appropriations accordingly, but this year we were able to capture all of this prior to the approval of the budget, and it's laying the groundwork for our CIP development that we're going to discuss in June. The total proposed 21-22 capital budget is $18.008594 million, and you can see the breakdowns on pages 191 through 196, and it includes the unallocated $500,000 that we'll be discussing in June, as well as the $750,000 for the courts construction of the new building moving forward. And go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is the timeline of where we've been and where we're going. We started on March 31st by having the interim city manager distributed the proposed operating budget to city council. And then it was subsequently posted online shortly thereafter. April 6th, we did the formal presentation of the proposed operating budget. And April 29th, we provided the revised operating budget with minor tweaks on April 29th to City Council, as well as posting on the website. Since then, in May, this current month, we've really ramped up a lot of the things that we've done. On the 3rd, we scheduled the public hearing for proposed operating budget in the school's budget. On the 11th and the 13th, we had those community budget work sessions that I previously discussed. Today, we're actually doing the public hearing of the operating budget and the Petersburg Public Schools. And today we're approving, or they've already approved the school's budget, but the proposed operating budget will be approved on May 25th, which is 7 days after the public hearing, which is by code. That's what we have to wait 7 days after the public hearing to approve the budget. And then June 1st and 15th are going to be major dates as well for us, because that's when we present the CIP process recommendations to City Council. And then on the 15th, we would hope to have discussion and approval of that process. And then June 30th is obviously the end of the fiscal year. And that is all I have. I have a bunch of thank yous. I've done them a million times. I appreciate everyone that's been a part of this process, Mr. Miller, the budget team, the department heads, and city council as a whole for the guidance and leadership throughout this process. And that's all I have on this, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Floyd, for the
Yes, sir.
wonderful presentation. And this is a public hearing, so I will open up the floor for the public hearing for the City of Petersburg's 2021 proposed operating and capital budget. All right, we have one, Ms. Barb Rudolph.
Thank you, Mayor Perham and City Council. Just wanted to mention one thing, or a couple things. And I think it was already discussed earlier when Kimi was answering the question about the Library Foundation, but I noticed in the capital budget, there's $500,000 that's unallocated. And I would hope that the council would consider spending that first on taking care of the buildings that the city already owns, like the Union Station and City Hall, and the schools and the parks and so forth. There's so many capital needs, operations and maintenance, that I hope that that's where the money will go, not toward the library addition, which is supposed to be being covered through private fundraising. My other remark is that with the American Rescue Plan, Petersburg is slated to get almost $21 million. That's a huge amount. And to the extent that that comes in and can be spent during fiscal year 2022, it has the potential to supplant money that you're talking about in this budget proposal. So I hope that the city will be very open about the plans, and not just what the American Rescue Plan dollars would be used for, but how that would affect the city's existing budget. And if money is freed up that's in the budget, that in our regular operating budget, what are the priorities of where that money could be redeployed? Because you have a huge opportunity, but the redeployment of that money also needs to be public, not just a decision that's made like, oh, well, we've got a windfall, let's just do something with it that's come up. Thank you very much.
All right, seeing no other hands, this public hearing is closed. Next, any comments by council members? All right, seeing none, Mr. Floyd, this is our second reading.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's just the public hearing, and the second
All right.
reading will actually do the approval next week, sir.
All righty. Okay, thank you and your team again for all the hard work you put into this. It was great. I know you got around and did a bunch of public meetings, and we really appreciate you doing those to get public input and all the hours you put into these presentations and crunching these numbers for us. They greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll move on to item 8C, a public hearing and consideration for the supplemental appropriation for Petersburg Public Schools in the amount of $3,538,588. Second reading. Mr. Floyd.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon once again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. This is the second reading of the third and final that I'm aware of supplemental appropriation from the Petersburg City Public Schools in the amount of $3.05 million. If you look in the agenda packet, it breaks down what these funding sources, where they're coming from. I think it's on the first attachment after the cover, and it kind of breaks down what those funds are for. And I stand corrected, the total is $3.5 million. My apologies. But this is due to the price threshold of them. We have to do a public hearing before we approve the appropriation of the funds.
All righty. Okay, at this time, I'll open up the floor for the public hearing on the supplemental appropriation for Petersburg Public Schools, the amount of $3,538,588. You guys see any hands?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing then. All right, Mr. Floyd, this is our second reading of this document as well, I see.
Yes, sir. This is the second reading, and it was slated to be voted on as well. The only reason why we delayed the operating budget is due to the state code and the way it describes it, but the other two are able to be voted on today, sir.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion then to approve the supplemental appropriation to Petersburg Public Schools in the amount of $3,538,000.
So move.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert. Councilmember Myers. Councilmember Myers, did he jump off? Okay. Councilmember Hart.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill. He jumped off.
He's off.
Vice Mayor Smith-Lee. Aye. Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 8D, a public hearing regarding a proposal ordinance to amend and readopt sections 114 through 68 and 114 through 204, and to adopt sections 114-73 and Ward 14-218 of the Petersburg City Code to establish a water and sewer connection fee payment plan program for large-scale affordable housing projects. And that will come from Ms. Tangelinas. And presented by Mr. Andrew Barnes.
I think Mr. Barnes is be presented it instead of Ms. Ennis. I'm not sure if he's on the line.
Yes, Mr. Barnes is in the meeting.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Today, we are
afternoon.
presenting a first reading of the water and sewer connection fee payment plan program for large-scale affordable housing. Next slide. Just give you some background on connection fees. So connection fees are assessed by the city in accordance with City Code Section 11468 and 114204. Fees are based on the following types of situations. For residential, commercial, or industrial uses, fees are based on meter size. For multifamily residential, apartments, condominiums, etc., fees are based on the number of units. Fees are assessed during the following situations: when making new connections to the utility system or changes in existing use. For example, a residential that is converting to commercial, a commercial that is converting to multifamily, or a single family residential that is converting to multifamily residential. Fees are also assessed when there is an increased usage or a larger meter. Fees are not refunded by the city for downsizing a meter, and the city does provide a credit for the existing meter use towards any changes in use or upsizing. Next slide, please. Connection fees are a buy-in to the existing system improvements and help finance future improvements. Oftentimes you hear the saying growth pays for growth. Connection fees do not include physical connections to the system. The physical connections are covered under what we refer to as tap fees. Connection fees can be fairly expensive for large developments. Total fees for a new residential dwelling are $7,980. A new commercial development with a 6-inch meter would have total fees of $299,000. And a 100-unit apartment complex would have total connection fees of $798,000. That's right. Fees are due up front prior to establishing service. Utility staff make an effort to inform developers of connection fees during preliminary development meetings. And I include a note about connection fees for plan review comments. Where connection fees are more involved in a single family residence, we generate a connection sheet to break that down. Connection fees can also be reduced by enterprise zone incentives and existing meter size credits. Next page. So the proposal for the large-scale affordable housing connection fee payment plan would essentially attenuate the large upfront connection fee costs with the payment plan program. The plan would only be for qualifying large-scale affordable housing units or projects rather. It would be a minimum of 23 units. They would be current on all taxes owed to the city, and they would have to have implemented affordable rates that are for those that are at or below the city's median household income. Payment plans would have a maximum term of 5 years. Next page, please. The plan would allow for administrative costs and plan should allow for administrative costs and construction cost escalation. All payment plans under this program would be presented as legal agreements to the city council for approval and then referred to the city manager for execution. Plan agreements would be recorded as liens on the property, and failure to pay connection fees by the end of the payment period would result in service disconnection and legal remedies by the city. Currently, the only project that I am aware of that would currently be affected by this program is South Line at Perry Place. Ongoing redevelopment and housing authority projects have not resulted in any change in use or increased number of units. They've all been rehabilitation of existing facilities, so we have not had to assess them any connection fees for that work. Next page, please. So the recommendation is for the city council to approve the ordinance, which does the following. Amendment and readoption of sections 114-68 and 114-204 of the Petersburg City Code, and adoption of sections 114-73 and 114-218 to establish a water and sewer connection fee payment plan program for large-scale affordable housing projects. I was also informed before this presentation that there is a necessary amendment to the ordinance that was drafted by the city attorney. And I'm happy to address that, or Mr. Williams may be able to address that as well. And then any questions?
Okay, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Barnes. And this is a public hearing, so we'll open up the floor for the public hearing on connection fee payment plan for large-scale affordable housing projects. Yeah, do we see any hands?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
All right, this public hearing then is now closed. Next, Councilman Cupper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and council, I move that council adopts the ordinance as proposed with two changes. And they are identical changes in sections 114-73 and 114-218. The change is to change the language that now reads with a minimum of 23 single-family units per building in each of those two sections to read with a minimum of 210 single-family units per building. My understanding is that the apartment development now under construction at Perry Lofts will result in 226 units. And so this change will not disqualify the Perry Street Lofts project from eligibility for this program if at a later time it is council's will to approve an application from Perry Street Lofts to benefit from this ordinance. So the motion is to adopt the ordinance as proposed, except that the number of units, the minimum number of units be changed from 23 single-family units per building to 210 single-family units per building in both section 114-73 and 114-218.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor?
that's, Mr. Williams, you want to chime in?
Yes, and if an amendment is being proposed, council may consider it's a typographical error that I found in the ordinance. In section 114-204, the red language that reads payment plans for water connection, that should say sewer connection. And then at the very end of that sentence, where it refers to section 114- it should be 114-218 at the very end of that red highlighted language. So I would ask if that an amendment's being presented, if that could be included in the amendment, so we can just do one time.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to incorporate the city attorney's suggestions into my motion for approval of the ordinance as modified by what I have said and by what the city attorney has said.
Okay, great. Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Second by Councilman Hart. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Abstain.
Okay. Councilmember Hart,
Aye. Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee. Aye. Mayor Pern,
Aye.
motion's passed.
Okay, next we'll move on to item 8E, a public hearing regarding a proposal to purchase city-owned property at 703 East Bank Street, 357 University Boulevard, and 351 to 353 University Boulevard, and the consideration of an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement toward the sale of the city-owned property. Mr. Tabor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. Mr. Clay Mansell will present this item.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council. This is just a straightforward disposition proposal. The Walks reached out to the Economic Development Department with their proposal to purchase city-owned property on December 1st or so of last year. There were some additional properties that are not being considered today that was in their initial proposal that through the negotiations, communications kind of went silent when we were negotiating until about January 28th, in which the city was reapproached and negotiations began again. Within that, we were able to get down to the properties before you today: 703 East Bank Street, 357 University Boulevard, and 351-53 University Boulevard, which is a empty lot next to 357 University Boulevard. Despite the negotiations, we were not able to get to the 50% assessment threshold that staff looks for a favorable recommendation. So today, we are not favorably recommending disposition because of that 50% threshold was not met. And I will answer any questions that members of council might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bell. This is a public hearing, so I'll open up the floor now for the public hearing to purchase the city-owned properties at 703 East Bank Street, 357 University Boulevard, 351, 353 University Boulevard.
One hand up.
Okay, can you unmute Jay Walkie?
Greetings, Mayor, and greetings to the City Council. Our proposal basically is based off, once we did the walkthrough of the property, we saw that the property was almost, it's not, basically they're non-livable. It's going to take a lot of intense work to get those properties where we need to get them. That's why we didn't come in at the 50% threshold. If the City Council and the Mayor can consider what we were trying to do to the property to uplift the community and do something with a nonprofit group on that commercial side, on banks, and on the university side, we will be doing something to increase the value by adding more value to those properties that are there. If you can take that into consideration, that would be very helpful. But because of the damage and the intense work that needs to be done to those properties, that's why we did not come to the 50% threshold. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other hands in the public hearing? Garrett? Okay, next we'll come back to members of council. Councilman Cuthbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the recommendation of the Department of Economic Development and does not approve the ordinance approving the sale of city-owned property at 703 East Bank Street, 357 University Boulevard, and 351-53 University Boulevard to MLW Homes, LLC.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Cuthbert to uphold the recommendation.
Second.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee, a second. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart, Vice Mayor Smith Lee,
Aye.
Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion is passed.
Next, we move on to item F, a public hearing regarding a proposal to purchase and develop city-owned property located at 427, 429, 431, 432, 438, 440, 450, 452, and 602 Harrison Street, and consideration of an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement between the city of Petersburg and Sharon Bolton toward the sale of city-owned property. Mr. Tabor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we have Ms. Cynthia Boone who will present this item.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Boone. Hey, Ms. Boone, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I was finally unable to unmute. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mayor Per, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you on today. Garrett, if you could unmute Mr. Shalom Bolton, C-H-I-L-O-N. That way, if council has any questions at the end of my summary, that you'll be able to answer questions. Just to give you a summary of the proposal, in 2018, Mr. Shalom Bolton submitted proposals to purchase city-owned property located at 427, 429, 431, 432, 438, 440, 452, and 602 Harrison Street to build single-family homes.
Excuse me, Miss Boone, can you speak up? I can barely hear you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Not to me.
I'm not sure why I have my volume all the way up. Is that better?
Yes.
Ms. Boone, who did you want to be allowed into the meeting again?
Shalom Bolton, C-H-I-L-O-N, Bolton, B-O-L-T-O-N.
Thank you.
I'm going to relocate over to Mr. Lyons' computer just to be sure that everyone can hear me clearly. So give me 1 second.
I can hear you now, Miss Boone. You're a lot louder.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna start over so you can hear all of it. But also first I want to make sure that City Council understand that we do have 3 proposals on the agenda for Harrison Street. The first one you will hear is from Shalom Bolton. The second one will be from Project Homes, and the third one will be from Mr. Joel Erb. So just to make that very clear, that we do have 3 proposals, but economic development only favor one of them. So I wanted to make that clear as well. So to speak on Shalom Bolton, that's the first one we have on the agenda. In 2018, Mr. Shalom Bolton submitted proposals to purchase city-owned property located at 427, 429, 431, 432, 438, 440, 452, and 602 Harrison Street to build single-family homes. The assessed value of the 8 parcels totaled $61,500 at that time. Mr. Shalom Bolton's proposed purchase price was $5,000. The City Council originally approved this proposal in February of 2019. Mr. Bolton provided his earnest deposit at that time. For any purchase agreement, the developer has a 120-day due diligence period. During this period, they must submit a development agreement to be approved by the City Council to be included in the deed. Mr. Bolton failed to comply and produce the requested documents, which includes the site plans, financial statements, etc., within the specified time frame. Due to this fact, his purchase agreement expired, and that is a typo on there. It says August the 27th, 2019. It should read June 27th, 2019, because it's a 4-month period of time. So from February to June is your 4 months. So because he didn't meet this requirement, he was not able to close on the properties, and this made the purchase agreement void. On June 23rd, 2020, Mr. Bolton reached out to Carthen Curran, who was the former Economic Development Director, Evidently from the email records, no action was taken until October of 2020. In October, the Department of Economic Development, after researching and analyzing the old purchase agreements, contacted Mr. Bolton to advise him that a new purchase agreement would need to be drafted due to his old purchase agreement expiring. And we requested he provided copies of his site plans, business plan, and financial statement. On November the 9th, Mr. Bolton submitted the requested items. On December the 8th, the guidelines for the disposition of city-owned property was revised and adopted by the City Council. On December the 11th, staff advised Mr. Bolton that the previous proposed purchase price and the amount of $5,000 does not conform with the new guidelines. Staff responded to him with a counter offer in the amount of $30,750. Mr. Bolton declined this counter offer and asked for the council members' contact information for the specific wards that the property were located. Staff provided him this information, and the Department of Economic Development had no further communication with Mr. Bolton since then. The issue that we have with this proposal, again, that the purchase agreement expired in June 27, 2019, and that his proposed purchase price of $5,000 does not conform with the revised guidelines for the disposition of city-owned real estate property adopted by the City Council on December the 8th, 2020. So the Department of Economic Development recommends denial of his proposal. And again, Mr. Bolton is available if y'all have any questions concerning his proposal.
Hello, can I speak now? Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you guys. I think there's a misunderstanding in terms of the amount of 30,000, because I was never basically I was told that it would be 53,000, and I asked, was there room for negotiation? And at that point, I didn't hear back from anybody. And before Mr. Corinne was there, I had been speaking with Reginald Tabor. So I've been going back and forth with this since 2017. I don't have a problem with paying the 30,000. I felt uncomfortable because I had been, going back and forth dealing with different members of the planning department about, okay, when can we close? What do I need? Tell me exactly what I need so that way I can satisfy whatever you guys are asking for. And I think there's a huge misunderstanding in terms of exactly what both parties want. I mean, basically, I don't have a problem with spending the money. I don't have a problem with that. But what I did have a problem with is, each time that I was working with someone, that person either resigned or that person was no longer there, and then everything got put back on the back burner. I don't have a problem with paying the amount that you guys are asking me to pay. I did, because I did not even know that that's what you guys wanted me to pay. That was not 100% clear. There was never someone sending me something saying, hey, you know what, you need to pay this particular amount. And I don't have a problem with that amount, but I was never sent anything in writing to say, hey, this is what we want you to pay. And it's always been, okay, well, I'm gonna talk to this person, I'm gonna talk to that person. And as a result, it's been almost 4 years now that I haven't been able to close on the property when I had an agreement at that amount. Because like I said, every time it's time for me to close, they need to speak to someone, and then I never hear back from anyone. And then the next thing I know, the person that was previously there is no longer in that position, or they moved to another position. So I don't have a problem with complying with what you guys would ask me to comply with. I just wanted to be a situation where, the city of Petersburg honored their word, and basically what they said they were going to do, they did. That was really the main issue. And as far as me knowing exactly what was being asked to pay, I did not know exactly, because it was put back before the board to determine whether or not they were going to even honor the original agreement. So I never had anything in writing saying, hey, this is what we want you to pay. That's it. I never had anything in writing. And nobody, said, okay, this is the amount that we want you to pay specifically. Now, I've spoken back and forth with Mrs. Boone, and I just think that there's a huge misunderstanding in terms of what everybody thinks about this project.
Okay, thank you. This is the public hearing, so we have a few hands in here. So At this time, we will start the public hearing off with Dollar Nemov.
Yes, I have a nigger.
All right. Next. Garrett, who is this? Ashley is a gamer?
I don't know.
I don't know about that one. I better not. Okay.
We generally haven't required proper names, so if you want me to let her in or not.
I think at this time is not a proper name. Why not? No.
Yes, sir. I don't see any more hands.
All right, seeing no hands in the public hearing, we'll close the public hearing. Next, we'll move on to discussion from members of council. Councilman Cupper. Councilman Cupper, if you're muted.
I'm sorry, you're correct, of course. I move that council adopt the recommendation of the Department of Economic Development and does not approve the proposal submitted by Mr. Bolton for the purchase of 427, 429, 431, 432, 438, 440, 452, and 602 Harrison Street.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilman Cupper, second by Councilman Myers. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers. Councilmember Myers. Okay. He must have went off. Councilmember Hart.
Aye.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Myers. Councilmember Hart. Councilmember Hill. Vice Mayor Smith Lee.
Aye.
Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Next, we move on to item 8G, a public hearing regarding a proposal to purchase city-owned properties located at 1119 West High Street in consideration of an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement towards the sale of city-owned property. Mr. Tabor.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, and Ms. Boone will also present this item.
Good afternoon again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. Garrett, can you please unmute Marianne, M-A-R-I-A-N-N-E? Dr. Fitzhugh, he will be answering any questions that you have concerning this proposal.
I don't have a Mary Ann. You want to try again?
I'm here.
Okay, there she goes.
My husband had to leave, so he left me.
Okay, yes, ma'am, thank you. For the summary of this proposal, the Department of Economic Development received a request from Dr. Fitzhugh on behalf of the Petersburg Revival LLC to purchase city-owned property located at 1119 West High Street, which is currently a vacant lot. They are requesting to add this property to the adjacent property that they already currently own at 1117 West High Street and maintain this piece of property. In doing so, it will provide them additional acreage and access to the rear of 1117 West High Street. The proposed purchase price for the parcel is $3,300, which is 50% of the assessed value of $6,600. To support the proposal, Petersburg Revival LLC has provided financial statements to support they have the funding to purchase the property at the proposed purchase price. This proposal is in compliance with the guidelines for the disposition of city real estate property, zoning, and the comprehensive land use plan. At this time, we will entertain questions from the city council.
All right, this is a public hearing for the properties at 1119 West High Street. We open the floor for public comment on 1119 West High Street ordinance. All right, seeing no hands, this public hearing is closed. Next. Comments from members of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Meyer?
I'd like to ask who the petitioner is. Are they the same owners that own property over there on North Jefferson Street and Center Hill?
Yes.
So what are your proposed, before the city decides whether to move forward to sell you more property, what are you going to do to abate the issues with the properties on Center Hill and North Jefferson Street and several others throughout the city?
We're getting, we're going through all the steps of getting the architectural plans made. We're working as fast as we can. We have quite a few to get to. This piece is just a piece of property with no building on it.
I understand that. And Ms. Boone,
Yes, sir.
is there a plan in place with respect to the other properties that Dr. Fitzhugh owns?
We
To
can
meet the
research
zoning
that
requirements,
for you,
zoning and which color requirements?
We can research that for you, Mr. Myers, and have a response to you by the end of this week.
Mr. Myers.
Okay.
Mr. Myers, if you don't mind, this is Mr. Lyons.
Yes, sir.
We met, Mr. Shelp and I did some follow-up with Mr. Fitzhugh last week as it relates to that, and Mr. Shelp is working with him, and they're coming back with development plans to address exactly what you were asking.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to be clear. Thank you.
Councilman Cutler?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Myers, would you like us to vote today, or would you like us to table this until perhaps our business meeting in June, or what are your thoughts?
I'd like to wait till the next one, if you don't mind, Councilman Cuthbert, if you'll support it. My only other thing is that I guess what I heard earlier in conversation, and I'm sorry, I've been so busy this morning, I apologize for not paying close attention. But when I heard about the threshold of the offers with respect to how does 50% this time meets the threshold, but I believe 50% the other time did not, or did I miscalculate something in a previous?
Mr. Myers, the one that Mr. Mizell presented on for MLW, they didn't even come up to the 50%. That was the issue with the first one.
I got you. So 50% actually meets the requirement that we are asking for, at least 50%.
Depending on the total investment and what they're proposing to do with the property. It's not a across the board assessment, no, sir.
Okay, I got you, as I understand. All right, thank you. That's all the questions I have. And Mr. Cuthbert, sure, we can move forward in the next meeting if you'd like.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I move that, have we had the public hearing on this already?
Oh, that's today, isn't it?
Yes, there's a public hearing today, yes.
All
We
right,
had it
so
today.
once we have the public hearing, you will entertain motions, is that correct? Or
Yes, we'll open up the floor for the public hearing.
Which you already did, I think.
Yeah, I did.
And that's
Okay.
why, yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. Okay.
So do you
well,
want to table this, Charlie, until the next one?
Yes, I move that we table this item 8G until our June business meeting. And at that time, ask staff to report to council the results of staff's efforts to develop plans with Dr. Fitzhugh for bringing his other properties into compliance with the Petersburg Property Maintenance Code.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart, Councilmember Hill is absent, Vice Mayor Smith Lee. Aye. Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed to table.
Next, we move on to item 8H, a public hearing regarding a proposal to purchase city-owned property located at 105 North Birch Street, 109 North Birch Street, 113 North Birch Street, and 115 North Birch Street, in consideration of ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement between the city of Petersburg and Little Creek Kung Fu Wudang Buddhist Temple of Virginia Incorporated towards the sale of city-owned property.
Again, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. Again, we bring another proposal before you. Gary, can you unmute Alex, ALEX, and behind it, he's gonna have LCKF behind it. He is the proposed purchaser of this property, Mr. William Bechtold. The Department of Economic Development received a proposal from Little Creek Kung Fu Wudang Taoist Temple of Virginia Incorporated to purchase city-owned property located at 105, 109, 113, and 115 Birch Street. Since November 2019, Little Creek Kung Fu has been in operation at 15 North Sycamore Street and wish to have the Taoist Temple as an extension of this business. The proposed use is the development of a Taoist temple that will consist of an outdoor, open-air training, community, and natural space that will be available for the community to use and to study and practice Taoism. They will construct raised garden beds, meditation walkway, add picnic benches, tables, and seating. The proposed purchase price for the property is $13,200. The zoning for each parcel is R3. The proposed use meets the current zoning requirements. We will entertain questions from the City Council, and Mr. Bechtold can answer any questions that you may have concerning his proposal.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll open up the floor for public comment on Little Creek Kung Fu purchasing property at 109, 105, 113, 115 North Birch Street.
Mayor Perm,
Yes.
I have a Cynthia Popper who wants to speak. She doesn't know how to raise her hand on the app, on the Zoom app. She just direct messaged me.
Okay. Gary, do you see Miss Cynthia Popper in the Zoom?
Yes, can we stop lynching niggers? Let's execute all niggers.
I did not unmute her. Please don't do that.
Who unmuted her?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure either.
All right, we have Patrick Ingram.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just wanted to just say that I think that Little Creek has done great things for the community. They have been pillars. They've been present, and it is my thought that they are well deserving of consideration for the purchase. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more hands, this public hearing is closed. Next. Questions from members of council or motions? Councilman Cupberth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopt an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement towards the sale of city-owned property located at 105 North Birch Street, 109 North Birch Street, 113 North Birch Street, and 115 North Birch Street.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a second from Councilman Hart.
That was Myers.
Councilman Myers, okay.
Yes.
All right, Councilman Cupberth, you wanna?
Yes, I'd just like to read to the rest of the council an email I received from Ms. Wilson Smith this morning. She says, once again, I more than likely won't be present at this meeting. Please support item 8H on the agenda. It is in my ward and it promises something new and different for Petersburg. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart, Vice Mayor Smith Lee. Aye. Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Next, we move to item 8J, a public hearing regarding a proposal to purchase city-owned property located at 1157 West Washington Street and 1203 West Washington Street in consideration of an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement between the city of Petersburg and BLW Solutions toward the sale of city-owned property.
I think you might have skipped one, Mayor Perm. Did you do 8I?
I did, Miss 8I. 8I is a public hearing regarding a proposal to purchase city-owned property located at 427, 429, 431, 432, 437, 438, 440, 450, and 452 Harrison Street, and consideration of an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement between the city of Petersburg and Project Homes towards the sale of city-owned property. Ms. Brown?
Again, good afternoon, Mayor Perm, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. Garrett, can you unmute Marion, M-A-R-I-O-N, Cake, C-A-K-E? He is a representative today. The Department of Economic Development received a proposal from Mr. Marion Cake on behalf of Project Homes for the purchase of city-owned property located on Harrison Street. Project Homes proposed to construct 10 new historically appropriate single-family homes in the 400 block of Harrison Street in the Poplar Lawn neighborhood. The proposed purchase price for the properties is $71,400, which is the total assessed value for all the properties. The completed homes will be sold to owner occupants with incomes between 80 to 100% of the area median income. Project will be supported by a Partnership for Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative of Project Homes, along with the Cameron, Cable, and Parsons Foundations and the Virginia Local Initiative Service Corporation. The P&R initiative is currently supporting the renovation and sale of 6 historic homes right here in Petersburg along Liberty, Harrison, and Diarchy Street. Project Home was founded in 1992 and will celebrate its 29th successful year of operation in 2021. Since their inception, they have built rehabilitated, repaired, and weatherized more than 10,000 homes in Central Virginia. To date, they have renovated or built over 235 homes that have been sold to new homeowners in the city of Richmond, Petersburg, the counties of Henrico and Chesterfield. The average sale price of these homes is $160,637. The properties located in the Poplar Lawn Historic District and will require ARB review. The zoning for each parcel is R3, two-family residential district. All properties meet the minimum size requirements for single-family residential. One of the properties meet the minimum requirement for two-family residential. The proposed use meets the current zoning requirements. Economic Development is in favor of Project Home's proposal. And again, I do remind you that we do have another proposal that will come up on Harrison Street from Mr. Joel Erd.
All right. This is a public hearing for the Harrison Street properties. So we'll open the floor for public comment on the Project Homes proposal. All right, seeing no hands, this.
Miss Cake has her
Miss
hand up.
Cake.
She's already unmuted.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, my name is Marion Cake. I'm the Vice President of Affordable Housing Development at Project Homes. And I just want to say that Project Homes is pleased to have this opportunity to develop 10 new high-quality single-family homes in Petersburg's Poplar Lawn District. We've enjoyed great success with our Poplar Lawn initiative and the support we have gotten from it. And we're looking forward to working in the Poplar Lawn neighborhood, doing what we have been good at for the last 29 years, which is reducing vacancy, increasing owner occupancy, and setting the quality standard for single family.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cake. Are there any more hands in the public hearing?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. Next, Councilman Cutler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council not approve the ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement between the city of Petersburg and Project Homes towards the sale of city-owned property located at 427, 429, 431, 432, 437, 438, 440, 450, and 452 Harrison Street.
I'd like to second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have a motion, a second. All right, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill, I'm sorry, he's absent. Vice Mayor Smith Lee. Aye. Mayor Perm,
Aye.
motion's passed.
Next, we move on to item J, a public hearing regarding a proposal to purchase city-owned property located at 1157 West Washington Street and 1203 West Washington Street in consideration of an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement between the city of Petersburg and BLW Solutions towards the sale of city-owned property. Again, Ms. Boone.
Again, good afternoon. Garrett, can you unmute Mr. Keith Blow, B-L-O-W-E? He is the proposed purchaser of these properties, and he represents BLW Solutions. The Department of Economic Development received a proposal for the purchase of city-owned property located at 1203 and 1157 West Washington Street from Mr. Keith Blow, who represents BLW Solutions. For the property located at 1157 West Washington Street, this will be a new construction of a 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath family rental home with a back and front porch and fenced-in backyard. Estimated construction cost is $175,000. For the property located at 1203 West Washington Street, they will renovate the existing structure to a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath family rental home with a front and back porch with fenced-in backyard. The proposed purchase price for both of these properties is $20,450, which is 50% of the assessed value of $40,900. They have provided a financial statement showing they have the funds in their bank account to fund the project in its entirety. The estimated completion date is August 2022 for 1203 West Washington Street and December 2022 for 1157 West Washington Street. BLW Solutions is a Class A contractor and DHS certified project manager. The zoning for each parcel is R3 2-family residential district. All properties meet the minimum size requirements for single-family residential. One of the properties meet the minimum requirements for 2-family residential. The proposed use meets the current zoning requirements. We would have questions now from the council, and Mr. Blow can answer any question you have concerning his proposal.
All right. This is a public hearing for BLW Solutions for the sale of city-owned properties, purchase 1157 and 1203 West Washington Street.
Mr. Blow is already unmuted.
All right, Mr. Blow. Can you hear
Good
us?
afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity. Just one minor adjustment on the information that was read, I believe. The current existing house at 1203, it is our intent to make that house livable and renovated by the end of this year. Rather than, I think it's at 22, but that will occur this year if the council sees fit to approve this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, see any more hands in the hearing, Garrett?
No, sir, I don't see any more.
Okay, seeing no more hands, this public hearing is closed. Next, we go on to comments from members of council. Councilman Myers?
Yes, sir. I move that we adopt the recommendation by the Economic Development Department.
Okay.
This is Vice Mayor's ward, so I'd like for her to even be a part of it.
Second.
All right.
I was trying to get off mute, but because somebody had their hand up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to get off mute.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smithley. Aye. Mayor Pern.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Next, we move on to item 8K, a public hearing regarding a proposal to purchase city-owned property located at 427 Harrison Street, 429 Harrison Street, 431, 432, 437, 438, 440, 450, and 452 Harrison Street, and consideration of an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase agreement between the city of Petersburg and Joel Erb toward the sale of city-owned properties. Mrs. Boone.
Good evening once again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. Gary, can you unmute Mr. Joel Erb, Joel, last name Erb, ERB? He is the proposed purchaser of this property. The Department of Economic Development received the proposal from Mr. Joel Erb for the purchase of city-owned property located on Harrison Street. His original proposal was to provide immediate and ongoing maintenance, including wildlife beautification to the neglected lots while preserving the integrity, history, and architecture that is present on Harrison Street and throughout Petersburg. The original proposed purchase price for the lots was $35,765, which is 50% of the assessed value. On April the 14th, 2021, staff advised Mr. Erb that we was recommending denial of his proposal to the City Council based on a competing proposal from an experienced developer in the city of Petersburg that included a higher purchase price, potentially higher property values, and tax revenue to the city. On April the 19th, 2021, Mr. Erb submitted a revised proposal for the development of 8 single-family residential homes. His new proposed purchase price was $71,400, which would be the total assessed value. He is a resident of that neighborhood. He's also a member of our EDA board. The properties are located in the Poplar Lawn Historic District and require ARB review. The zoning for each parcel is R3, 2-family residential district. All properties meet the minimum size requirements for single-family residential. One of the properties meet the minimum requirements for 2-family residential. The proposed use meets the current zone requirements. Economic Development just lead way for the City Council to vote on the on this proposal.
Okay. All right, Mr. Erb, can you unmute Mr. Erb Garrett, please?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and members of council and Ms. Boone, thank you all for the opportunity to speak here. As Ms. Boone mentioned, I am a resident on Harrison Street. I live adjacent to the lots that are up for sale by the city. And as my proposal stated, the intention here is to build 8 market rate residences that conform to the ARB guidelines, given the fact that this is a historic district. And there's the team that I've assembled are ones that have had experience in development of these types of projects, but also the core focus here is to be cognizant of the community here and to retain all of the amazing character that's present. The last thing I'll say is that one of the core tenets of this approach is a pocket neighborhood model, and that is what has been proven as a key to revitalization in a lot of cities across the country, from Chicago, Detroit, Oakland, and Memphis. And we're very excited for the opportunity to be able to bring that to life here in the city of Petersburg.
Okay, we will open up the floor now for the public hearing on the purchase of properties on Harrison Street. All right, seeing no hands, this public hearing is closed. Next, we entertain Councilman Cuthbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approve an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute the purchase agreement between the city of Petersburg and Joel Erb towards the sale of city-owned property located at 427, 429, 431, 432, 437, 438, 440, 450, and 452 Harrison Street.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, it seems to be a whole lot of crazy names appearing up here in this waiting room.
It is. And
See
I was
him,
also
okay.
tell Gary that I know we
Yeah.
are under
Yeah.
There's a lot of hacks going
Yeah.
on
and
right there.
Names that is crazy. Okay.
Right, so we'll put those in the waiting room. Keep them out the meeting, Barrett, please. All right,
I'm doing the best I can. Someone
okay,
look like decent names.
thank you. Next, we have a motion, a second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee,
Aye.
Mayor Perm,
Aye.
motion's passed.
Next, we move on to item L, a public hearing and consideration of a special use permit petition for a nightclub at 1706 and 1714 East Washington Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Sandra Robinson, our zoning administrator, who will present this item.
Thank you.
Yes, Robinson.
Go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
Good afternoon, Mayor Perham and members of the council. As before you, we have a special use permit application for the from Lisa Jysuk Park, who is the owner, but she's represented by Attorney John Wood for the operation of a nightclub. The property, as per the application, is 1706 East Washington Street, 1714 East Washington Street. And the reason that they're coming before us is because the property is zoned, although zone B2, a special use permit is required as an overlay district for all requests for nightclub establishments. And they have to be located within a B2 or M1 light industrial zone classification. Just to summarize, Mr. Najar is going to be the tenant for the request. When Mr. Najar had approached the planning department regarding the restaurant, lounge, nightclub, he was advised that he had to go through a special use permit process. So, not to belabor or anything, he went through one attorney who understood the city's regulations, but he later acquired Mr. Wood to represent him. One of the reasons why he has to look at a special use permit is because what he wants to do with the live entertainment past the hours of 11 p.m., that is one of the classifications which requires him to go through the special use permit, as well as the city is aware that they used to have a karaoke bar there when it was called Fusion Nightclub and Restaurant. He wants to be allowed a dance floor, have DJs, and that sort of thing. The adjoining property is zoned B2 and M1, which is general commercial district classification, as well as light industrial. However, the subject property is surrounded right next door to a church. There's residential neighborhoods behind the property as well, and along Washington Street corridor. The applicant, under the existing zoning regulations, is and can use the property for birthday celebrations, graduation ceremonies, family reunions as a by right use. But because of the live entertainment aspect, the hours of operation, he is required to obtain the special use permit. Let's see. So with the pockets of neighboring single family residential uses, you have Petersburg East also east of the property. You have the elementary school, Lakewood Elementary School, which is located along Gibbons Avenue. The comprehensive plan identifies this property as being used for commercial and industrial uses that are compatible. Let's see. At the Planning Commission public hearing, there was a lot of discussion, and we had people speak in opposition of the said proposal. If I can, I don't know if you have it in your packets. We received a letter from Laura Jarrett, whose name is spelled L-O-R-A, Jarrett, J-A-R-E-T-T, that she was representing the church, and she's on the board of directors. And in the letter it says, I am Laura Jarrett, a member of Faith and Hope Temple Cogit, 1800 East Washington Street, Petersburg, Virginia. I speak on behalf of Bishop Herman Crockett Jr., the church board of directors, and our membership regarding the request to operate a facility offering live entertainment until 2 a.m. A nightclub at 1714 East Washington Street, Virginia, Petersburg, Virginia, 23803. The subject property, which includes 3 parcels of land. I've also spoken with Robert Williams, president of Lakemont Neighborhood Watch, and he shares our same concerns. We strongly oppose the property's rezoning to allow Paradise Nightclub and Restaurant to operate and offer live entertainment until 2 a.m. Nightclub as a land use as provided under Article 23 of the zoning ordinance permitted in B2 and M1 zoning districts for the following reasons: potential noise, drunken club goers, litter, drug use, and violence and occurrences associated with nightclubs. This facility is located next to Faith and Hope Temple Cogit, a faith-based ministry focused on worship, fellowship, discipleship, and community improvement. Part of our mission is to deter crime and positively impact our community. A nightclub does not contribute significantly to community improvement. The nearby Lakemont neighborhood is known for crime and drugs. Clubs potentially receive visits from police, loitering, drug activity, fights, and loud noise, especially outside the club. We are concerned that a nightclub would increase crime in the neighborhood by attracting criminals who would target the nightclub customers and pose a safety concern for the residents. Our Petersburg City Police face daily challenges fighting crime in our city. A nightclub would only add to the problems for the men and women who have accepted the challenge to maintain peace and order and improve the quality of life for our residents, businesses, and visitors. Most businesses in this area are closed long before 2 a.m. hour. A nightclub poses a risk of destruction of property for nearby enterprises because of excessive drinking and sometimes drug use associated with this type of business. Based on a recent article in the Progress Index on March 31st, 2021, 2:39 p.m. Eastern Time, Petersburg is unhealthiest of any Virginia city or county. We don't view a nightclub as offering very many positives to Petersburg's unhealthy situation. If necessary, we will submit a petition to strengthen our opposition to this rezoning. Further, we don't believe the community will profit positively from having a nightclub in this area. Thank you for allowing me time to speak, and we hope that the commission and council members will oppose the addition of a nightclub at this location. Sincerely, Laura Jarrett. I don't know if Ms. Jarrett is on the phone. However, again, under the criteria of the ordinance under Article 23, Section 4, number 15, it does state that the city council, the planning commission would review this, and the city council would make a determination on whether or not to support this type of activity at the said location. Councilwoman Wilson Smith, she is opposed to it, and she did speak during the planning commission meeting to voice her opinion and the opinions of others who had approached her regarding this request. So it's with staff's recommendation that this request be denied.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and considered the petition during their April 7th, 2021 meeting, and the Planning Commission voted to recommend denial of the petition.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tabor. Well, this is the public hearing on 1706 and 1714 East Washington Street for the nightclub.
If Mr. Wood is on the phone, it's going to be under John Wood. He's the attorney, and I would suspect that the phone number he might be calling in from would be 732-1000. I haven't spoken with him since the planning commission turned this request down.
I don't see that number.
Okay.
We do have Laura's iPhone, but I'm suspect.
I don't think that that's would be correct. Do you have a Park, Lisa J. Park? That was the owner of the property. And again, they haven't reached out to the planning department since the planning commission deliberated.
No, ma'am. No Lisa Park.
All right, seeing no hands, this public hearing is closed.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilman Myers.
As it is the will of the council representative of Ward 1 to support the outcome of the planning commission, I move that we support the planning commission's decision.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith-Lee,
Aye.
Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
All right, I'm a public hearing in consideration of a special use permit petition for a car wash at 2010 East Washington Street.
Okay, again, this applicant is asking for a special use permit in order to operate a car wash at 2010 East Washington Street. The applicant, Mr. Clyde Johnson, he currently operates a Trendsetters tire establishment, and he wanted to add an ancillary use such as the car wash establishment to his business. The applicant has delineated, as per my request, the in and out of the property, as well as he's remarked his parking spaces to identify where people can park at, opposed to not having them clearly delineated. The applicant is in a B2 general commercial district, and again, this is a item listed as item 23 under the special uses enumerated of the zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission favorably recommends approval of this request.
Oh, Sandra, did you say East Washington or West Washington?
He's on East Washington.
East Washington, okay, that's Trescas Board, okay.
Yeah. Ms. Wilson Smith spoke at the public hearing during the Planning Commission also regarding this request, and she stood in favor of it as well.
All righty.
Mayor Perm,
Yes.
I have Councilmember Hill on. He said he's calling in from his phone and his phone number is listed up.
Okay. Gary, you see Councilman Hills?
It might be under his name, Garrett, or under the number 804-919-2896.
Okay, in the meantime, we'll open up the public hearing for the car wash at 2010 East Washington Street.
Oh, the applicant may be on the phone. His phone number is, I wrote it down. It might be under Clyde Johnson. Phone number is 731-5527, I think it is.
I don't have that one either.
Okay, I know he had contacted the office,
You
but
said Johnson?
yes, it might be under, look under Trendsetters R. Johnson. Clyde.
Neither one of those either.
Okay.
No hands, Mr. Mayor.
All right, seeing no hands, public hearing is closed. Next, we have a discussion from members of council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman
I
Meyer.
move to support and approve the request of the petitioner.
Second.
Okay, motion is second by Vice Mayor Smith Lee. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Cuthbert.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee.
Aye.
Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Okay, next we'll move on to item N, a request to schedule a public hearing in consideration of an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a MOU with the Friends of the Lower Appomattox River Incorporated, a Virginia nonprofit corporation, Appomattox River Soil and Water Conservation District, an independent political subdivision of Commonwealth, Virginia, and Petersburg Rotary Club breakfast for the conveyance of an easement and a covenant on city-owned property located at 10 North Jefferson Street and 125 East Washington Street.
So moved.
All right, it's a public hearing. At this time, Councilman Myers, let me open up.
Sorry.
The public hearing first. I'll come right back to
you. Oh, there's John. I heard him last.
All right.
That would have been me.
All right, Ms. Boone, you want to?
Yes, sir. Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. Garrett, I do apologize if I just sent you a presentation. I just emailed it to you. And also, can you unmute Mr. Robert Taylor? It's only showing up as
Richard.
Robert.
Richard Taylor.
Yeah, it's only showing up as Robert.
And Garrett, also, I think the iPhone that just came in, that's in the waiting room, is Councilmember Hill. He said he was gonna hang up and call right back. So that should be him.
Okay.
Gary, did you receive the presentation?
I'm getting it right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just give you a quick overview while he's accessing the presentation for Mr. Taylor. The city of Petersburg received a proposal for an easement between the city of Petersburg and the Friends of the Lower Appomattox River Incorporated, a Virginia nonprofit corporation, Appomattox River Soil and Water Conservation District, an independent political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and Petersburg Rotary Club for the conveyance of an easement and a covenant on city-owned property located at 10 North Jefferson Street and 125 East Washington Street. The purpose is for the construction, operations, and maintenance of a park and open space. The property is zoned B3 Central Commercial District. The proposed use is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. And at this time, Mr. Taylor would like to do a brief presentation to give a description of the scope of the project.
Okay, Mr. Taylor says he can't unmute.
Well, what name was he under? It wasn't Robert. That was somebody else.
R.B. Taylor, right?
He told me he was going to be under Robert.
Richard.
Or Richard, yeah. Originally, he was up here.
I got you. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Can you hear? I guess you can hear me now.
Yes.
Robert was a pretty good guy too. He was an old time actor before I was born. But thank you. Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. And I would like to thank all of you for allowing us to come back to the public hearing. You've already seen the presentation at a prior meeting. And so thanks to Ms. Boone, we sat down with about 50 slides and decided we'd only show you about 3 or 4 this time since you've seen most of this already. There have been a couple of changes made since the last presentation I made. One is that the Petersburg Rotary Breakfast Club has now applied for incorporation. So it'll be the Petersburg Breakfast Rotary Club, Inc. And also we now have a schematic of the 40 some trees and 60 some shrubs that we'll be planting on this barren site. Currently, you're looking at the site. Ms. Boone, if you go to the next one. This site is also considered a heat island within the center city. And this project will greatly reduce the amount of heat created by this. Ms. Boone, can you hear me?
Taylor, Garrett is operating. Garrett, can you go to the next slide?
Garrett, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. That's a schematic of what the landscape architect has proposed for the park. In the original plan, also, we were going to eliminate the parking lot that you see at the lower part of the diagram here. However, we've decided to keep that because recently I had a discussion with Martha Burton, who heads up the Petersburg Area Regional Tourism. And I think what we're going to also do is include at the entranceway into the parking lot a kiosk with some historical facts about Petersburg and also points of interest for tourists to visit. And one of the directional signs that we will have will also include directions to the information center in Old Town. So that's something else that we've added that you didn't see in the original one. I'm really getting excited about this. We're working now with Virginia State, the Cooperative Extension Service, as well as a member of their faculty in their biology department to eliminate and make this an increased urban tree area, which will help cool down the city. This slide shows a rain garden that we hope we'll be able to get school children from the area schools to come and help build. Again, it will help filter the water that comes off of the land here and will provide cleaner water down to the river. Next slide. This depicts a photo of what we hope the trail will be like. Mr. Mayor, it won't have that bench in it, but this is over in Monroe Park in Richmond, and it's what they've done, and we plan on having the same surface treatment there for the pathway that'll be circling around this area in the park, where people from the area or tourists, they can take a break and walk and just relax and enjoy the scenery. Next one. Yeah, there you go. If you recall, in the original presentation, we showed you the old ironworks from the gas company that was originally in Petersburg. And we're going to use some of those fixtures that you see there to create the signage and incorporate it into the lighting around the park. Garrett? We did not have this depiction of the sign that will have "Welcome to Petersburg," which will have the various civic clubs and sorority and fraternity logos that we'll be able to put along the edge of it. Again, it brings out a little bit of the history of Petersburg in this particular neighborhood, and we wanted to maintain that. And as if you will see or have seen in the past, what we're doing is extending that first block improvement project that the Petersburg Foundation did several years ago. And we're going to continue it down Washington Street all the way to Adams. So hopefully when people come into town now, they'll have a really nice welcoming spot that they can either stop at or at least look at some directional signs to figure out where they might want to go. And that's pretty much the changes that we proposed. We've got the Soil and Water Conservation District on board, FOLAR. The Petersburg Rotary Club is going to take this on. We just applied for an $18,000 grant to help pay for the fencing that will go around it. That'll be their contribution to it. And if anybody has any questions, we're ready to get started.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Next, I'll open up the floor because this is the public hearing on the MOU. If there's anyone who wants to speak on the MOU for the Gateway Park on Washington Street, 125 East Washington Street, you can raise your hand and be recognized. All right, seeing no hands, this public hearing is closed. And Garrett, if you see Councilman Hill should be in under his name now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I didn't see him come in though. It's good.
Okay, okay, great. Next, back to Councilman Myers. All right, and Myers. Myers logged off. Next, then I will go with Councilman Cuthbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopt the ordinance proposed authorizing the city manager to execute an MOU authorizing the purchase of city-owned property located at 10 North Jefferson Street and 125 East Washington Street.
Second.
Okay, we got a second from Vice Mayor Smith Lee. At this time, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers, Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee,
Aye.
Mayor Kern,
Aye.
motion's passed.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 9, the public information period. A public information period limited in time to 30 minutes should be part of an order of business at each regular council meeting. Each speaker should be a resident or business owner of the city and should be limited to 3 minutes. No speaker will be permitted to speak on any item scheduled for consideration on the regular docket of the meeting at which the speaker is to speak. The order of speakers limited by the 30-minute time period shall be determined as follows. First, in chronological order of the notice, the persons who have notified the clerk no later than 12 o'clock noon the day of the meeting. Second, in chronological order of their sign up, persons who have signed the sign up sheet placed by the clerk in the rear of the meeting room prior to the meeting, removed from the consent agenda. Ms. Jackson, have any speakers that notified you?
Yes, I have one speaker, Giovanni Busto.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Good afternoon. I'm Giovanni Busto. I live at 119 Crater Woods Court. This morning in the Progress Index, a piece was done on the Commonwealth Attorney investigating Councilmember Hart on whether he lives in his ward or not. I just wanted to know why the Commonwealth Attorney chose to not investigate the Vice Mayor regarding her allegedly not living within city limits. This is according to previous citizen complaints. Also, during our last council meeting, Councilmember Hill said that he would be open to citizen input regarding the new city manager selection process, something that I appreciated, but I see today one was hired without any public consideration anyway. I understand that our council members are elected to hire the city manager, but I think given our history of how we've had to fire city manager before for things like using grant money to pay city bills, I think there's some trust issues there, and rightfully so. Not to mention the fact that citizens are directly affected by the person who's responsible for executing city services. So official input by city residents, I think would be helpful regarding guidance as taxpayers for shaping the overall future of the city and moving forward. I also believe we had street repair on the last council agenda that never happened. I'd been curious about what the plans were we had for repairing our streets. I met a resident recently, new in the country, who told me that she thought that she had missed an earthquake because all the streets and sidewalks were broken up. I know that Hopewell announced, I believe, a 15-year plan for their street repair, but I don't quite recall there being such for Petersburg. I could have missed it. And as far as the sidewalks, I know that next to the Andrew Street Bridge renovation project, when it was announced, you could have walked directly into a ditch, straight into the creek next to it without any type of railing. Which is pretty concerning, not to mention that's an American Disability Act violation. And just to look out for you all, ADA lawsuits have been flying in recent years across the country. And just for the sake of protecting yourselves, I think it would be in your best interest to either establish a plan in addressing this, or at least to acknowledge it. And of course, carrying it out and making sure that that's done. That's all that I have for now. Thank you.
All righty, next we have Mr. Corey Harris.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, Corey Harris, 2316 Anderson Street. The first thing I want to talk about is those, well, whatever you want to call them, characters that keep popping up into our meeting. I don't think that we should automatically assume that this meeting is being hacked. The link is public information. Anyone can join in. So I think that we shouldn't rush to judgment, automatically assuming that our meeting was hacked. The second thing I want to address is the article that I saw this morning about Councilman Hart. The timing of that article strange, to say the least. I'm going to do something that I have never done at a council meeting. I'm going to talk about a council member, John Hart. Now, the biggest thing that citizens complain about city council, because quite frankly, they believe that you guys are out of touch. There's some evidence to prove that you are. Councilman Hart, I've known him for a long time. And I can say that Councilman Hart is a decent man. He cares about the community. He's just a people person. And how he has been treated in the past 5 years, I don't like. I don't like it at all. This is not coming from Councilman Hart. This is coming from me. We're so lost. We don't understand the importance of image. With something put out in the newspaper like that, for malice intent, and that's exactly what it was. It had nothing to do with him not living at the address. It was about, quite frankly, getting rid of him. Because some of you have been trying to get rid of him for 5 years, okay? Is this really worth it? Does it help Petersburg? Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Next, Patrick Ingram.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. I'll just wait for the sound to be set. All right. Patrick Ingram, 836 South Gilbert Drive. So I just have some concern because, you know, throughout this entire, well, what started the meeting was a conversation about what's fruitful to the residents of Petersburg. And, you know, we started this meeting off by a rush without resident participation to select the next city manager. And on top of that, there are concerns as well about the selection of, or really the decision to have an investigation done on Councilmember Hart. It's odd as a resident and tax-paying citizen to find that this investigation has taken place while others have not. There was a Progress Index article in November where a council member gave mention on the record in terms of their time in the city. That's the past, and we are in the present. But in terms of, you know, my follow-up and other people's follow-up, we got a response from the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office that council member investigations were not their scope. They're not an investigative arm. So that is concerning. That, you know, it seems as if it seems dirty. It seems a little dirty. My ask is that if we're wanting to do things that are fruitful to all residents in Petersburg, is that we include Petersburg residents. As it relates to Mr. Harris's statement in regards to being out of touch, it does seem out of touch. To rush in the beginning of a meeting, the decision to select a new city manager, to not provide us the opportunity, especially based off of the history that Petersburg has as it relates to transparency, accountability, but more importantly, doing the job that needs to be done. Residents should have had the ability to have some say in the decision-making process. If we can make decisions off of budget or being able to provide feedback in regards to a budget proposal or a comprehensive plan, why can we not provide some form of commentary as it relates to the selection of our next city manager? I just hope that this individual, which a lot of us have been doing the research throughout this meeting, and it seems that this person is capable. I just hope that this next city manager is willing to talk and work for the best interest of every single Petersburg resident, because the word of the year is equity. We should not be investing thousands of dollars into a library system when we have a school system where people just can't even read at a 5th grade level. We have to do better. We have to put our prioritization in place. Thank you.
Garrett, any more hands?
I do not see any, Mr. Mayor.
All right, seeing no more hands, this public information period is closed. Next, move on to business of reports from the mayor or other members of city council. Councilman Cutler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of council, I want to thank the mayor for his guidance and leadership in helping us select our new city manager. I think we proceeded as a team, carefully, deliberately, and in an efficient manner that carefully watched the city's funds. We did not engage in an expensive headhunter, and we took the initiative ourselves to search within Virginia, primarily, although we had applicants from outside of Virginia. But it made a lot of sense to me for us to focus on Virginia, just as we did. I think we have a tremendous candidate that we have now hired. I look forward to working with him. I know all of City Council does, and I know he looks forward to working with City Council and the public. I think sometimes a few members of the public lose sight of the fact that representatives of the public are making these decisions, and those representatives of the public are the members of City Council. But to return to the beginning, I want to thank the mayor for his leadership through this challenge. Second thing, I would like us to address 3 topics during our work session in June, that is June 1. One is the delay by city staff in posting payments to the account that is being paid. This is a tremendous irritant and ongoing irritant to the public, and I think I understand why it's an irritant, since a number of my payments do not get timely credited either. So I think President Clinton taught us the phrase, "I feel your pain." At least that's where I learned the phrase. But whether it's just me or not, it's clearly not just me, judging from the volume of complaints that I get from Fourth Ward constituents. We need to solve this problem, and I ask staff to address this problem at our work session. Why is it happening, and what's the game plan for addressing it and correcting it? 2 other topics on June 1 I'd like to ask staff to address. One is the city's average utility bill collection rate for the past 3 months, for which data is available. We have not had that information for some time. It's terribly important to us, and we need to be concerned that it may sneak up on us if we don't keep an eye on it. And the last topic I'd like staff to address during that work session is, under what circumstances should the city close streets to facilitate filming production? We just closed the streets on a Monday, but did not close them on a Sunday. The streets were not in any significant use on Sunday. They were in significant use on Monday, and yet we closed the streets on Monday in order to facilitate. In any event, I'd like staff to address that topic also. And Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Cutler. Next, we'll move on to Councilman Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council and citizens of Petersburg. I don't have much to bring. Just kind of baffled at, some of the comments, and I do understand. Having been, we've been doing this for a while, and we have hired good city managers and good city attorneys, and got a great clerk, things of that nature. So whenever a council person is elected, as you all know, and I understand you do know, I'm assuming that how can I put this? That we do speak for the people. That's why we have ward meetings and things of that nature. I just had a ward meeting probably about a month ago. I talked to my citizens in Ward 2 that we were embarking on this process of a new city manager. Talk to them, you know, the ones that came out. And I do understand that the people who called in and said they want more transparency, lack for a better term. But and that's one of the things that I wanted. I really do. But being that as it may, you have individuals who are seeking employment for the city of Petersburg. And what happens is a lot of time when people's names get out there, and I said this in the paper, you know, we get applications from individuals and they ask us, please do not disclose my name, even when it become a found list, because we have individuals who will go and seek certain things to go on and with a person, whether credible or not, or discredit them or not. And we've had this done before. Call around to jobs and things of that nature. And therefore, you know it, that individual may get fired or may not get fired for that. If you put yourself in someone else's shoes from time to time and see what an individual has to go through in the city of Petersburg versus another locality, and we've had individuals call other localities to talk about people who are leaving our city. So it puts council in a very requirement situation when we're making these decisions. Someone said something about, you know, council being out of touch or what have you, and that's a matter of opinion. You know, I'm very in touch. My city that I've grown up in for the last 52 years. I graduated here. My family is here. Both sides of my family is here. My mother's side and my father's side. You know, I shop here. My church is here. I'm invested here. I have a home here. So with all of that is going on, I walk the streets of Petersburg every day, all the time, picking up trash, talking to citizens. So it's difficult as it is. This is part of the job, and this is part of one of the responsibilities of council. And, you know, you have certain groups out there, and I understand, you know, and I talk to anybody, honestly, even the ones who don't see things the way that I see them. But we have a good gentleman, and I hope that the citizens do not attack him like the way previous individuals have been attacked in the past, just because they feel like they didn't have any say so in this choice. This is a personnel issue, and we all know what that means. So with that being said, I welcome Mr. Terrell, he and his family to Petersburg. He's well able, well qualified. I'm pretty sure you all probably got his bio and all that stuff by now and what have you. I do understand that the citizens, they want to be involved in such things like this. And I understand that, I really do. But it puts us in a predicament. I don't want anybody to get fired from another job because we have let their name out or something to that matter. I want to get questions from the public. The process was moving and we had some great candidates, but this particular individual rose to the top. So, and we'll see from here on you know, how things go. As far as with the city, I am still, I want to thank those who are responsible for cutting the grass and getting the trash up. It's a daily battle in which we've been dealing with. So I want to thank all those who are part of that. We had a successful block party on Sunday. Thank all those vendors who did that. So, and I thank the council for us pretty much voting unanimously for our new city manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Hill. We'll move on to Councilman Myers. All right, if he's not there, we'll come back to him. Councilman Hart?
Yes, I just want to say thank you to Corey Harris for your comments. I don't know where all this stuff is coming from. It'll all come out and show up eventually somewhere. The only thing that council needs to know that at some time I will be out here. As you know, I've been unemployed for a while. You know, so I am looking other places for employment, and to be honest, a lot of them are out of state. So I've given a lot since being on this council, and you know, to have this stuff come up, you know, now for the 6th time since I've been on council, it just is amazing.
All right, Councilman Hart.
That is all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Vice Mayor Smith Lee.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. At first, I want to thank everybody who worked so hard in the city to try to make our city better than what it has been to what it can be and what it will be. And I do want to welcome the newly elected city manager, Mr. Terrell, and Chief Miller. Thank you. Thank you for just being a footstool for us to ensure that, you know, when Ms. Benavidez left, you were there to just ensure that we have moved on to try to make the best of what we have and what we can get here in the city. John Hart. My heart is heavy because of the fact that when people are down, everybody scatters. Everybody don't see. But when you up, people are right there. You had a massive stroke where you couldn't even walk or talk. I was there coming to the hospital day in and day out, the mayor, all council members. When you got out the hospital, you couldn't walk. My husband and his brother-in-law made the ramp for you so that you could be able to walk, be able to maneuver. And the council took it upon themselves to make sure that the people in your ward, if they needed something, we were there for them. But I just want you to know, you just keep your head up, because you know what? We don't ever know the day, the time, or the hour that something like this will happen to us. I want you to know that no matter what, we serve a good God, and you're gonna prevail. And God is gonna help you and strengthen you in your body, your mind, and your soul. Just remember, you put God first, and He will guide you right. So I'm here to let you know that I'm here for you from the beginning to the end of your journey.
Thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor Smith Lee.
Yes, I'm sorry, that completes my report.
Okay, thank you. Next is Council Myers, still up there. There he is. Can he's muted for some reason. Gary, can you unmute him?
He wasn't muted at first. Unmute again.
There you go.
I got some Myers. Still don't hear.
We still can't hear you.
Yeah, your mic's not picking up.
Okay, he says he's good. Okay. All right. Just want to thank all of City Council for their support. I mean, we have always pulled together and with this group and have made some great decisions. And I think that still leads today. And we were put in this seat to make some decisions, and most of them are tough decisions. And I thank everyone for digging deep to help us carry out the city, to move the city forward. I mean, we've faced great tasks that people never thought that we would be able to climb. A lot of the mountains that we have in the city that took various hits. Thanks specifically, Councilman Hart. We came on this thing together. We've been battling together, and I appreciate all of his sacrifice and his service for always having each other's back. And it's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that this council is a tight-knit group here. And this is, we put our minds together, and at the end of the day, always do what's best for the city. I'd like to take this time to welcome Stuart Terrell, who's going to be starting July 1st as city manager. And he just sent out a message here that I would like to read to everyone. And he says, thank you for the honor and privilege of selection as the city manager of Petersburg. I am Stuart Terrell, a native Virginian who grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia, and visited Petersburg many times while growing up in Lynchburg. I know that this city has tremendous potential, and my mission will be to realize it to the fullest. The expectations of citizens regarding the role of local government have changed. Government must change to meet them. Local government today must be an island of stability and safe harbor in the sea of storms and trouble, as we have seen with the pandemic and the recession of 2008. An organization of leaders and problem solvers whose primary mission is to uplift a community, to solve problems and remove obstacles, not just the immediate problems in the community, but the long-term systemic problems. Go-getters, solution providers, not pothole fillers or bureaucrats, offering real strategic solutions to deeper issues such as poverty and lack of access to economic opportunity. Customer service professionals, returning hard-earned taxpayer dollars with the highest level of professional service. The operating organization will be a group of people and resources with one primary mission: to provide solutions and opportunities to overcome obstacles facing our citizens and this community collectively, so that we can reach our fullest God-given potential and grow this community upward. I will work in partnership with the City Council to lead the organization and community to achieve its vision and future. To achieve this future, I pledge my total effort and commitment and ask for your support and help, because it would take a whole community effort to achieve. My first 90 days will be to conduct a needs assessment of organizational and community leads, then prioritize the needs and discuss with council. Also, to reach out to the community and listen to you. This will become my first work plan in which I will be accountable. Stuart Terrell, Jr. As you can see, Mr. Terrell will be ready to come to work, and we planning next week to do a formal introduction, and we will get with Mr. Terrell and his family and have that arranged. So again, I'd like to thank council again, and also our administration to help us assist in getting to this day. And because time is of essence, we have a tremendous amount of things that we need to do in the city, a tremendous amount of good things that's happening, and we want to ride that and build on the future. So that's the last of my comments. Next, we'll move on to item 11, items removed from the consent agenda. There are no items. Next is item 12, finance and budget report. No items. Number 13, unfinished business. Consideration of renaming the pavilion located at William Spratley Park on Farmer Street after William Fobbs. Vice Mayor Smith Lee.
Yeah, yes,
Yes.
I'm here.
Okay.
I just want to read the little background in
Okay.
reference to Mr. Fobbs. Okay, so Mr. Fobbs, he was born in Petersburg, and he remained a citizen of Petersburg until the age of 91. He attended the Petersburg Public School, and he was a member of Zion Baptist Church for over 69 years. And he served in World War II, in which he was awarded the Purple Heart. He was a devoted father, husband, and family man. And when the kids in 5th Ward, now part of 6th Ward, we lived on, I lived on West Street, but he lived on Farmer Street. But his sons were much older than I and my siblings and some of the kids in Ward 6 now, but Ward 5. And he would take all the kids to Young store that was located on the corner of West and Farmer Street. And he also provided kids at that time, you could go to swim at Farmer Street Park for like 10 cents. Do you know that he prepaid for the kids to be able to swim at Farmer Street, the ones that didn't have the money? But he was just, he was an icon, and he was the matriarch for Ward 5 and Ward 6 now. So he has done so much for the kids in the city of Petersburg. He went to every basketball game, every football game, every baseball game. He was the baddest baseball player around. He played softball. He played in the semi-pro league with Cornelius Barlow. But it's just so many things that he has done in Ward 6. He made sure that every week he walked to that park and serviced it, and then he cleaned it up. He picked up the trash. It's just amazing on how and what he did for Ward 5 and 6. So I am very in support of him. The pavilion that's out there with the picnic tables be named Willie Fobbs Pavilion.
All right. That's a motion from.
That's a motion.
That's a motion. We have a second from Councilman Hill.
Yes.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers. Councilmember Hart.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee.
Aye.
Mayor Pern.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. Next, we'll move on to item 15, business. Consideration of appointment to the John Tyler Community College Board of Directors. Recommendation to the City Council make an appointment or reappointment to the John Tyler Community College Board of Directors. We have School Board Chairman Ken Pritchett that serves. I entertain a motion to reappoint Chairman Pritchett to the John Tyler Community College.
Member Hart.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee.
Aye.
Mayor Pern.
Aye.
Motion's passed. And also, Mayor Perm, I did receive early this morning an application that I sent to you guys for Ms. Zelda Tucker Duggar as well, that's on this board, for her to be reappointed to the John Tyler Community College Board.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to appoint Ms. Zelda Tucker.
Tucker Duggar.
Second.
to- All right,
So moved.
all right. So Councilman Hill, and then a second by Vice Mayor Smith Lee.
Yes.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee,
Aye.
Mayor Pern.
Aye.
Motion's passed. Thank you.
All right, next we move to item 14B, consideration of appointment to the Crater District Area Agency on Aging Board. It's recommended that City Council appoint by resolution Sheriff Vanessa Crawford to the Crater District Area Agency on Aging Board for a term expiring May 31st, 2025. I entertain a motion to approve. Sheriff Crawford.
Second.
All right. All right, we have a motion from Vice Mayor Hart, second by Councilman Hill. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee,
Aye.
Mayor Pern.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Next, move on to item 14C. It's consideration of appointment to the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Board.
So move.
Right, I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Kofi Adai to represent Ward 3 on the CDBG Advisory Board.
So move.
All right, Councilman Hart. Second by Councilman Hill. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee, did she leave? Vice Mayor Smith Lee?
She's still in the meeting.
Okay, she may have taken a call. Mayor Pern,
Aye.
motion's passed.
All right, Councilman Cuthbert.
Mr. Mayor, I've moved that council appoint Ethan C. Calvert to the Community Development Block Grant Citizen Advisory Board.
I second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith Lee, she's still out. Mayor Pern,
Aye.
motion's passed.
All right.
And
Next,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Councilman Cuthbert.
I'd like to clarify, I guess we need to specify this. I propose that Mr. Calvert be an at-large member of this board.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just about to ask that question.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Next, we'll move on to a resolution to request for the approval of recognition by City Council for the installation of informational signage for historic homes proposed by the Hash Street Association.
Mr. Mayor, Kate San Gregorio, the city's preservation planner, will make this presentation. And we
Thank you.
have also submitted a resolution document for consideration associated with this item.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Due to an error on my part, the resolution was not included in your packet. So if it's acceptable, I could share my screen and present it now.
Yes.
1 second. Okay, and this is to consider a resolution approving the installation of informational signage for historic houses beginning on the High Street. This proposal came from the High Street Association. It was presented to the Architecture Review Board a few months ago and went through some changes through recommendations from the board. It was reviewed by the ARB again last Wednesday, and they recommended approval of the signs and passed a resolution very similar to the one that I presented here. The specifications have not changed from the presentation I made 2 weeks ago to council, and council had no comments on that. I can read through the specifications though. The size of the sign face is to be 12 inches by 8.5 inches, printed on aluminum plates with a UV coating, about 100 words in each text box. Design is based on other historic signage in the city. Let's see what else. The poster about 3 feet tall and installed in a way that doesn't encourage visitors to trespass on private property, but also not get in the way of the sidewalks. We're proposing that the owners of these properties purchase the signs and maintain them rather than the city. I think that's about it.
Okay.
So move.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Hart to approve the resolution for the High Street Association.
Second the motion.
The second by Councilman Hill. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smithley. Did she come back? Okay. Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Next, we move on to item 14E, consideration of a motion to authorize the city attorney and city manager to conclude Petersburg Circuit Court case number CL 20-1127, 1128, 1129, and 1130 in accordance with the recommendation of the city assessor. Mr. Williams.
Yes, those are erroneous tax assessment cases that we previously discussed. The city assessor has made a recommendation regarding an adjustment that would conclude these cases. And the plaintiff's attorney has indicated that that adjustment would be acceptable. If council approves this motion, we'll conclude those 4 cases.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. Next, we entertain a motion to authorize the city manager and city attorney to conclude Petersburg Circuit Court case CL 20-1127, 1128, 1129, and 1130 in accordance with the recommendation of the city assessor.
So moved.
Second.
All right, with motion and a second, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smithley,
Aye.
Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
All right, next is item 14F, which is consideration of a resolution in support of continuing operations at the Riverside Regional Jail. Is Sheriff Crawford on? Gary, you see Sheriff Crawford here?
Yes, sir. I just put her on now.
Okay. Sheriff Crawford, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we are asking that the city submit a resolution of support in continuing operations at the Riverside Regional Jail because the state, formerly the Board of Corrections, has made a committee of that board has made a recommendation to decertify the jail and send all of the inmates back to the local jurisdictions. However, no one has a jail other than Chesterfield. And it would be financial suicide if that happens, because of the amount of money that each of the jurisdictions would have to invest to either develop a jail or to find somewhere to place all of their inmates. And currently, we have in Petersburg over 300 inmates at Riverside. So several of the jurisdictions are asking their local governing bodies to prepare a resolution in support of keeping the jail open to present to that, as I said, formally the Board of Corrections.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff Crawford.
Sure.
So move.
All right. It's been motion by Councilman Hart, second by Councilman Hill. The resolution, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cuthbert,
I'm going to abstain. I don't know enough about what's going on here. For some reason, this jail review committee recommended that the jail be closed, which is a pretty drastic response to some perceived problem. I think I read in the newspaper that it was due to in part to the number of deaths of inmates at that jail. I mean, this is serious business. So I understand the financial reasons for this resolution, but I'm not sure what's in the public's best interest. And you know, maybe I just don't know how to handle this, so I'm going to abstain.
Well, Councilman Cuthbert, if you give me a call, I can enlighten you a little more, because the newspaper does not tell the entire story.
Well, that may be, Sheriff, and I certainly will give you the call, and I appreciate, the invitation. On the other hand, this jail review committee recommended some pretty extreme action, namely that the jail will be closed. In any event, I'd like to abstain, and Sheriff, thank you. I will give you a call, and I know it's a tough issue. I just feel like we haven't given it enough study and haven't considered whether there are any long-term alternatives. I realize there's no short-term alternative, but in any event, I abstain.
Okay, all right.
thank you. Councilmember Myers, is he still absent? I think so. Councilmember Hart,
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith-Lee, Mayor Perm.
Aye.
Motion's passed.
Okay, next we'll move on to item 15, City Manager's Report. The COVID-19 update.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think I have Chief Mahalik on. Gary, if you unmute him, please. Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting for Chief Mahalik, I have Deputy City Manager Lionel Lyons on as well. He wants to give a very short presentation. Mr. Lyons? You're still muted, Mr. Lyons.
Muted.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, just want to bring two quick items to you that we are working on and that staff has taken a proactive effort to move towards the planning commission. One of the items focused specifically on billboards. Currently, our zoning ordinance permits billboards in commercial and industrial zoning districts. And that was last adopted and updated back in March of 2010. But if you ride along the highway and you move along through our city, you will see that there has been a proliferation of billboards along our highways and in our cities. And so staff is working on a plan and a proposal to take to the Planning Commission for us to enhance the process for reviewing and approving those requests about billboards in our city. So we wanted to just at least let you know that that is something that we're proactively looking at, going to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for July 7th. With your approval, we'll be proceeding in that area. The second item relates to multi-family development. Currently, the zoning ordinance permits multi-family dwellings in multi-dwelling districts, R4, R5, and a part of what we are looking at there is staff has started this process called impact statements, trying to determine the impact that multi-family dwellings have on our city system, such as our utilities, our schools, and our transportation. More specifically, recently up off of South Crater Road, there was a development there that we all brought to you, talked about the impact on our sewer system. And again, we want to be able to fully explore the options of multi-family moving forward on our community. And again, on July 7th, staff is working to develop a presentation to take to the Planning Commission to talk about these issues and ultimately to bring it back to you all for review and consideration. So I just wanted to give you those two items as it relates to billboards and as it relates to multi-family development moving forward with your consent to the Planning Commission for further review and consideration.
Thank you.
And Chief Mahalik is actually under the phone number 733-2412, Garrett.
Oh, it was logged in by name also. That's odd, but yeah. What's the last four?
It's 2412.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Mayor Parham, members of the City Council, there is a brief overview of our COVID-19 efforts. I don't know if Garrett can pull that up on the screen.
Should be up now. Oh, sorry. Can everybody see it now?
Yes.
All right, provided you a quick comparison of Petersburg cases compared to Virginia. Know that Petersburg has continued to run slightly behind the state for some time through this whole pandemic. Our overall cases, our positivity rate are continuously going down every day. Our average daily cases have dropped by 2 in the last week. As far as our efforts, you can see that these first shots, second shots are all based on general population. So we are a little behind by that. I will add in that when you take out school children from general population, based on 2019 census, we're at 46% of our citizens receiving 1 shot and almost 34% fully vaccinated now. Some of our efforts were working with our faith-based communities on the congregations for schools. June, we're working on a somewhat mass vaccination for the students, and after that, that is going to be turned over for partnership with our contracted pharmacies to continue on a weekly basis. Our mobile unit outreach, we've kind of restructured and organized that. That's being sent out more geographically to pull in large populations of our citizens, where the contractors for the state are hitting our smaller entities such as small apartment complexes. We are working on homebound residents. Information should come out on that in the next couple of days, how they can make contact and get signed up. We're finishing that up today. You see some of our mobile sites that we've been able to get completed here in the last few days. That list is continuously expanding, and upcoming events, that's not inclusive. There's many more that we're working on hitting in the next few days or the next few weeks.
Chief, thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, you have the rest of my report already submitted. If no other questions from council, I'll be answered.
Yeah, at this point in time, seeing those numbers, Mr. Miller, can we start working on a plan on reopening the city and a partial reopening of the city, and what would that look like?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Yesterday, we had a meeting of our executive staff members, and by Friday, each department, because each department is different, has to give me 2 indications, what it looks like to open from a soft perspective, and then a full-blown opening. The one consensus that we reached yesterday without much conversation needed was that the masks for our staff members are still going to be a requirement. We have to protect our staff with respect to being able to provide this service. So that's one thing that we came up with yesterday, but by Friday, each staff member, each department head will have to give me their recommendation for a soft opening versus a full-blown opening. I don't think we're there yet based on the numbers you just heard from Chief Mahala. With respect to our vaccination rate, we're still somewhat behind the state. And so to open up and be successfully opening up without putting our community and our staff in peril is the big question right now. We're working on that, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions on the COVID-19 report from members of council? All right, seeing no more. Thank you for your report. Next, we'll move on to business reports from the clerk. Ms. Jackson, any items?
I have no items.
Okay, item 17, business of reports from the city attorney. Mr. Williams, any items?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just one item. Earlier in this meeting, council adopted item 8D. It was amendments to the city code regarding water and sewer connections, creating a opportunity for a payment plan for certain developments. An attorney representing one of the developers who prompted the city to take a look at this called shortly after council had adopted the ordinance and closed the public hearing and adopted the ordinance. He indicated that he had planned to show up with his client and attend the public hearing, but unfortunately they were unable to navigate the technology to do that, and they missed their opportunity. And so he sent an email, and I forwarded that to all of city council, and he asked if I would read his statement to city council when we had the opportunity to. And so here I've pulled it up on my screen, and he indicated he wanted me to read: the Perry Street project mentioned by Charles Cuthbert is my client, Tom Wilkinson, and I had hoped that to make this comment. This project, like every project, has its own unique facts, which I know that Tom has made the city aware of, the issues he faces with this tap fee, the way the ordinance is drafted. The payment plan cannot exceed 5 years. This handcuffs city council, as there may be very legitimate reasons for a term which exceeds 5 years. So we would ask that the language capping the length of the term be removed from the ordinance and leave the term of the repayment plan at the discretion of city council, with each project being judged on its own facts and circumstances. I'm not supporting or discouraging council from taking action to correct this. Council does have the ability to have a motion to reconsider amend and readopt the ordinance at this meeting if it chooses to do so. Would simply require section 114-73, item 1D, to have the language struck that says not to exceed 5 years, and the same to be done in 114-218. That's council's option. You can do nothing and leave the ordinance as it is, or you could, a member of the prevailing party, which I think it was unanimous, so I think any member could make the motion, could move to reconsider, amend, and readopt the ordinance with that correction in both places. Just wanted to let council know that he had made that request. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Williams. If there aren't any more items, we move on to item 18, adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right.
Second.
This meeting's adjourned. All in favor, aye. Goodbye. All right, have a good evening. Thank you.